Hello and welcome to this video prepared for the Warren County, Ohio schools focusing on school crisis response. In particular, is your school prepared and do you know the available resources to assist you? My name is Patty Otting. I am the Associate Director of Mental Health Recovery Services at Warren and Clinton counties. I am a licensed independent social worker with supervisory designation, and I've been working at MHRS since 2005. However, my mental health career extends well beyond my tenure here. Currently, one of my duties is to oversee publicly funded mental health services provided to children and adolescents, which in our community is heavily focused in the school systems. I'm also the lead for the trauma informed care learning community for the two-county area.
Hello, my name is Kim Sellers and I am the Coordinated Care Program Director at the Warren County Educational Service Center. I am an independently licensed social worker and have worked in Warren County for over 20 years. Prior to coming to the Warren County ESC in 2005, I was an investigator and then the investigations supervisor at the Warren County Children's Services. I am a certified trauma and loss specialist and have my school suicide prevention accreditation. I have also worked in private practice.
Hi, this is Julie Knieven. I am an independent social worker supervisor. I am the Director of Child and Adolescent Services for Solutions Community Counseling and Recovery Centers. I have over 30 years of experience working with children and families. My specialties are trauma-informed care and early childhood.
We realize that sometimes information is needed immediately, particularly in the situation of school crises. Therefore, we decided to create this on-demand presentation so you can get the information 24/7 and know who to contact when the need presents itself. In this presentation, we will review some basic information regarding how we are defining school crises and their potential traumatic impact on students. We will highlight some key variables to consider in these circumstances. These are incredibly important in guiding your decision making and response in the time of crisis. You've already been introduced to Kim Sellers and Julie Knieven, who are two key contacts in Warren County who can assist with crisis response. They will provide more detail in terms of when to reach out for assistance and things to consider. Also, they will further describe the resources they have available to assist school personnel, including the development of crisis policies, assessment of high-risk students, and responding in the aftermath of a crisis. To begin, let's set the foundation for the types of school crises we're referring to. While there may be many scenarios school personnel may encounter which may be deemed a crisis, we are referring to situations in which many individuals may be impacted. These can include violent behavior, particularly when physical aggression is observed by multiple students, such as fights in commons areas, aggression which leads to injury, and violence when a weapon is utilized. School shootings. This can be within the actual school or in a nearby school, or a highly visible incident with mass casualties in which the students intensely identify with that population affected. Serious threats, which could include credible and severe bomb threats or life threats against students or teachers. Accidents, which could include car accidents, sports-related accidents, or other accidents that occur on or adjacent to campus, particularly if there is serious bodily injury involved. Death of students, staff, former students, or family members of students, particularly if they were heavily involved with the school or if it's a highly publicized death, such as a homicide. Suicide deaths, particularly of students, but this could also include staff members or family members of students when it's a high profile event covered by the media. Community violence that occurs on or adjacent to campus. This could include situations where there is a violent criminal incident on or near campus. This may prompt a lockdown or other safety precautions and may induce concern or panic in the students. Traumatic events that may affect students in their communities or regions may include terrorism or large scale violent events such as a terrorist attack, gang conflict, or wars. Those of us who vividly remember the 9/11 attacks can attest to the impact of such events just from watching the news coverage. However, we all know that such events could strike closer to home. Natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, fires, and tornadoes. Again, we have seen the impact of hurricanes, wildfires, and floods on schools through media reports, including in Houston and Puerto Rico. We've been fortunate locally, but this could change at a moment's notice. School climate issues. This could include racial tensions, bullying, or cultural differences. Obviously, these are not mutually exclusive. Additionally, there may be other categories not reflected here, but this is just an illustration of the types and intensities of crises we are referring to. The National Child Traumatic Stress Network is a premier entity in the field of trauma response. They've developed the 3 R's of school crises and disasters. These are equally important. Most schools have the readiness phase covered in their school crisis manual. This deals with being prepared to respond to a crisis and to an emergency if the crisis or disaster were to happen today. We find that schools are typically prepared to respond, which is utilizing the school's resources and skills to act effectively and decisively when a crisis situation has occurred. Oftentimes, the recovery phase is an afterthought, but it should be considered as of equal importance. The recovery phase is focused on restoring the school to a sense of social and emotional equilibrium. This is providing an environment and resources in which students and staff can heal from the traumatic event. The recovery phase is what our school crisis services are particularly focused on. There are a multitude of reasons why these crisis situations should be addressed. Liability, public relations, and media exposure, just to name a few. However, for the purposes of this presentation, we will be dealing specifically with the reactions students and staff may have to these traumatic experiences. In fact, the involvement of the school is critical in supporting students through the emotional and physical challenges they may face following an exposure to a traumatic event. Staff may notice that there is an effect on the student's physical health, their mental health, and their continued development. There may be differences within the classroom as to how each student processes the same event. This can depend upon their age and development. This can include if the student has developmental disabilities, if they were actually a victim of physical harm during the event, if they were friends or classmates with a victim, if they have suffered past trauma, and if they have pre-existing behavioral health issues. Once staff understand how crises can impact students differently, the next step is understanding how they express their lingering distress over the experience. School staff can then better respond and help them through this challenging time. For instance, students who have suffered a traumatic experience may suffer from ongoing feelings of concern for their own safety and the safety of others. They may become hypervigilant. They may express overwhelming feelings of fear, which may be displayed as a heightened startle reflex or avoidance of situations which may remind the person of the event. Or sadness, prompting behaviors like withdrawal or crying spells. They could display a preoccupation with thoughts about their actions during the event, oftentimes experiencing guilt or shame over what they did or didn't do during the time. Or they may feel the need to frequently retell details of the traumatic event. It's also important to note that a traumatic event can seriously interrupt the school routine and the processes of teaching and learning. The involvement of the school is critical in supporting students through the emotional and physical challenges they may face during an exposure to a traumatic event, and to assist them through their recovery so that it doesn't adversely impact their academic achievements. This graphic provides some detail regarding some of the symptoms which school personnel may see in traumatized students. It's important to remember that they may be in the state of, I can't hear you, I can't respond to you, I'm just trying to be safe. It's also important to be aware of some of these symptoms in the classroom. For instance, students may exhibit unusually high levels of emotional distress. As noted in the previous slide, this can include fearfulness, sadness, and guilt. Inattention in class and difficulty concentrating. They may be preoccupied with flashbacks of the event or dealing with feelings of being unsafe. Disruptive behavior. Sometimes these emotions may come out as being disruptive, defiant, or oppositional. Poor attendance, as they may be avoiding the location of the trauma, or they may have physical problems due to the stress. Reduction in grades, as they may be more focused on survival than academic achievement. Unusually reckless or aggressive behavior. This is sometimes prompted by feelings of survival guilt. Experimentation with drugs and or alcohol. This may be a coping mechanism or a way of escaping their thoughts or feelings. Remember, self-preservation is their priority. They may be thinking, I'm just trying to be safe. Warren and Clinton counties now has a trauma-informed care learning collaborative, which meets every other month. Schools are welcome to join. Information about the Learning Collaborative, as well as a wealth of trauma resources, can be found on the Mental Health Recovery Services website at the web address listed here. These resources include many that are specific to schools and youth. There are lists of archived webinars, resource documents, articles, and recommended websites. We encourage you to check it out. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kim Sellers, who will give you a more in-depth look at factors you should consider in preparing for your postvention or recovery phase.
When you initially call us, there are a few things you will be asked to think about. Some areas of consideration are the level of impact, how much disruption and what kind should be anticipated, what additional information is required and how might it be obtained, what resources are required for the initial response, how critical or traumatic is this incident, and what is the scale of response. When you call, we will walk you through this process. We will ask if this is something that our school crisis team can handle in-house, and if not, how much outside help will be required. When calling to request deployment, the level will be assessed based upon discussion of the circumstances. The level of interventions include Level 1, situation confined to an individual or a small group. Level 2, class or grade level is affected. Level 3, multiple grade levels and potentially the entire building is impacted. Level 4, multiple buildings and sizable portions of the district is impacted. Level 5, catastrophic incident with widespread and profound impact on the entire school community. I will now turn it over to Julie Knieven.
Things to consider. Contagion effect. So there is evidence that it has been accumulated that suicide can be contagious in that it can be transmitted either directly or indirectly from one person to the other. The evidence is derived from 3 bodies of research: studies of the impact of media, reporting on suicide, studies of suicide clusters or groups of children or peers that make up a cluster, and studies of the impact on adolescents of exposure to a suicidal peer. So that constant impact of that exposure can affect others. There are specific protocols on how to handle deaths of students by suicide, and our team can help with that. Other things to consider: impact on all levels, peer groups, church affiliations, clubs such as band or Spanish club, sports that a student may be involved in. Families of the students in schools within the district will also be affected. How do they respond to such a crisis? Students at risk already of behavioral health issues may be affected more so when there's a crisis such as a suicide. Other things to consider: family wishes, memorials to any student who might have died of suicide. Consider school functions, sporting events, graduation, homecoming or prom. Do you make special accommodations to memorialize a student? And what are the long-term impact and intervention needs of students? You need to consider that some students may have some trauma reactions, and this exposure over and over to a memorial or thinking about it may cause some kids trauma. Now I'll hand it over to Kim Sellers.
I am now going to share information about the Warren County School Crisis Team. In this presentation, we will learn about the function of the Warren County School Crisis Team, as well as available services. In the next few slides, I will share information on the goals of our team, introduce you to our team members, talk about available services, and talk about when a crisis occurs. Sometimes the level of a crisis requires response which is beyond the capabilities of the school or district staff. This can occur when the school staff themselves are impacted or traumatized, or the effects of the crisis are so far-reaching an adequate response cannot be managed by the school or the district team alone. Some of the functions of the Warren County School Crisis Team include supporting schools with intervention protocols and plans for dealing with the school crisis. It is not intended to replace what districts and buildings already have, but rather to enhance those services. At the request of the school or district, the team can serve as an intervention specialist in the aftermath of a crisis or as collaborating experts when evaluating at-risk youth. All team services will be provided under the direction of the designated school or district personnel. I will now introduce you to our team members. All team members have been through a comprehensive application and reference check process and have completed a background check. Most of our team members are certified trauma specialists through the National Institute of Trauma and Loss in Children. Shelley Brown is a prevention specialist at the Warren County Educational Service Center. Jane Groh is the Director of Operations at Solutions Community Counseling and Recovery Centers. Vicki Hott is a Project Aware Grant Coordinator at the Warren County Educational Service Center. Jason Norman is the lead pastor at Real Life Church. Kim Sellers is the Director of Coordinated Care at the Warren County Educational Service Center. Cinder Snelling is the school counselor, guidance counselor at Donovan Elementary, and Robert Talaferro is a probation officer at the Warren County Juvenile Court. The following are services available through the Warren County School Crisis Team: technical assistance in developing school crisis protocols, assessment in the aftermath of a crisis, including assessing potential impact to school community and planning of interventions, and staffing interventions are available in classrooms, safe rooms, and at staff meetings. Debriefing, case consultations when a school desires an independent opinion regarding an at-risk student, or a threat assessment. The Warren County School Crisis Team has many resources available to your school or district, and many of those can be found at the website below. To request emergency deployment from our team, please call 1-877 695-6333. This is a local 24-hour behavioral health crisis line, and you can request contact with the school crisis team. You can also request non-emergent technical assistance or case consultation by calling Kim Sellers at the Warren County ESC at 513-695-2900 extension 2311. And the school or district determines the number of team members needed in the desired specialty areas. I will now pass it over to Julie Knieven.
School-based behavioral health services. Solutions Community Counseling and Recovery Centers offer school-based behavioral health services. We provide these behavioral health services to the community at large. Our mission is to promote wellness in mind, body, and spirit. And through this mission, we provide emergency response services to the community. For example, schools, businesses, civic groups, faith-based groups, or any other organization that may be experiencing a crisis. These services may include prevention services and planning for crisis response to situations, consultation around emergency response or in planning for a crisis response, emergency response after a traumatic event. You need to consider that all people that have been involved in an organization, business, or school may have a response, and taking care of everyone is important. So inviting another team to help in that response may be a very caring way to help everyone involved. We can assist in ongoing supports to facilitate healing. And services can be provided on site at any location. All children and adults can be served at any of the 4 service locations. These services are at no cost to Warren and Clinton County schools, businesses, residents who request assistance, as they're subsidized by the mental health recovery services of Warren and Clinton counties. Donations are accepted and very much appreciated. All the staff at Solutions are credentialed and vetted. We have trained our staff to the Traumatic Event Crisis Intervention Plan. This is a model of crisis intervention developed by Crisis-Oriented Planning and Educational Services. For contact information, we are available 24 hours. 513-695-6333 is the phone number to call for any kind of emergency response. Email for questions or more information, jgrow@solutionsccrc.org or jknieven@solutionscc.org. We can assist you with planning and help you understand a crisis response. For more resources, consider going to Mental Health Recovery Services online or go to Warren County ESC. For deployment of a crisis team, call 513-695-NEED to request contact with a school crisis response team or to call a solutions supervisor. For non-emergent technical assistance or any case consultation, call Kim Sellers at Warren County ESC or Julie Knieven at Solutions CCRC. Please share this presentation with your administrators, guidance counselors, school psychologists, or your own emergency response team. We thank you and wish you well.